But let me acknowledge the chairman of the University Council, Professor Anangwe, the DVC, Professor Mula, Ambassador Monica Juma, the National Security Advisor, the Principal Secretary, Dr. Singwe, who has done a marvelous job in moderating this session, Professor Louis Franceschi, Deputy Secretary General of the Commonwealth, the Chairman of the Foreign Service Academy, heads of missions and other diplomatic corps present, and the UN Resident Coordinator, who is also accompanied by his father. An 85-year-old gentleman who must be very proud of his son today. And because we'll not have an opportunity to single out all our partners, if you could just wave so that we can appreciate the presence of yourselves and the countries you represent and institutions, we would be very happy. Thank you. So let me make my remarks. I am honored to join you at this important conference, which is part of a series of major events to celebrate 60 years of Kenya's diplomatic journey. It is commendable that the organizers of this event came up with such a timely theme, commemorating the 60th anniversary of Kenya's diplomatic journey, the hits, the misses, and the lessons. This theme speaks to the evolution of our foreign policy while guiding us to evaluating our diplomatic performance as a country. It enables us to reflect on our successes, low moments, and our resilience to learn from the lessons and chart a way forward. When reflecting on democracy, I am drawn to the timeless words of the former UN Secretary General, Dag Hammarskjöld, who said, "The road to holiness necessarily passes through the world of action." In Kenya's case, our diplomacy has always been action-oriented and rooted in the pursuit of peace and prosperity and partnerships. Indeed, as we convene in this esteemed university, we ponder over our past engagements, achievements, and opportunities with pride and a profoundly unwavering spirit that has propelled our nation onto the global stage. Coincidentally, the University of Nairobi, which is our venue today, has nurtured many graduates who have immensely contributed to our country's diplomatic journey, and this was said before. 60 years ago, when we attained self-rule in 1963, a Department of External Affairs was established in the office of the President or the Prime Minister for our newly independent nation to navigate the incipient terrain of international relations. Today, 6 decades down the memory lane, it has undergone a remarkable transformation into a fully fledged Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, demonstrating our steady trajectory in global engagements. Over these 6 decades, we have evolved from a young nation asserting its sovereignty on the world stage to a respected regional and global player. The diplomatic footprints of Kenya are now etched in the corridors of the United Nations, the African Union, multilateral institutions, and bilateral avenues, reflecting our commitment to humanity's collective good. Kenya has since established 70 diplomatic missions globally and hosts over 109 foreign missions in Nairobi, making our city a vibrant diplomatic hub. Today, as you have heard, we host the United Nations Environmental Programme, the UN Habitat, as well as the United Nations Office at Nairobi, which serves as the only headquarters in Africa and the Global South. By the way, they sit on 140 acres. As we celebrate Kenya's position as a growing diplomatic hub, we must not forget to acknowledge the diplomats and leaders who planted the first seed of this great achievement. In this regard, let me single out the late Ambassador Joseph Odero Joy, because we tend to forget his name somewhere, and pay tribute to him for his visionary diplomatic leadership that guided our country's efforts to persuade the world that we can indeed host the UNEP in Nairobi. We also host a range of regional offices of critical financial institutions, including the African Development Bank, the IMF, and the World Bank's largest station outside Washington. Indeed, Kenya is now a regional financial hub. As a result, Kenya has always shown its gratitude for this symbol of trust by ensuring that we adequately support and defend these critical agencies and institutions. You will agree with me that it is not easy to trust somebody with your money. But here you are as a financial regional hub, which means that the institutions around finance have built sufficient confidence that many countries are able to trust Kenya with their money. Looking at the conference agenda, I am pleased that the topics being covered are weighty and comprehensive in scope, covering both the past, the present, and the future, from ever-present issues of regional integration, peace, and security. The conference also explores issues ranging from multilateralism and global governance to international trade, the diaspora, as well as digital diplomacy, the role of women and our youth in diplomatic discourse, and the critical role of parliamentary diplomacy. Certainly, it will be interesting to read the communique at the end of this conference. Kenya's diplomatic history reveals that since independence, our diplomacy has been guided by clearly defined principles which are largely aligned to the United Nations Charter and the African Union Constitutive Act. They broadly include Pan-Africanism, regionalism, humanitarianism, good neighborliness, and non-interference. Our diplomatic engagements are also founded on our national values, namely patriotism, good governance, and a corruption-free foreign policy. A commitment to human rights, inclusiveness, human dignity, and sustainable development, among others. At this point, let me get a bit philosophical in highlighting the significance of patriotism in our foreign policy agenda. The realpolitik theory of international relations tells us that due to the anarchical nature of the international system, states pursue their self-interests. Additionally, a state is considered a unitary actor, meaning it represents its citizens in the global arena as a single entity. Therefore, collective patriotism, which is the love of our country, should underpin our viewpoint of the external environment. Other forms of political organizations, including political parties, will come and go, but our country will endure for generations to come. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, if you reflect, perhaps it's only in Tanzania that you can talk of a political party that has really held out over the years. But even for Kenya, the original party is perhaps a pale shadow of what it was. we have seen now in Botswana, I think a ruling party literally whitewashed, and I think we have they retained maybe about 5 to 6 seats. And then there's Mauritius in the recent election. It was 60-0. The entire parliament, the entire government, 60, they were all voted out. Well, just ponder. Post-independence Kenya opted to avoid ideological blocks by choosing instead to establish cordial and mutually beneficial relations with all countries across the globe. For this reason, our country has enjoyed cordial fraternal relations with most of the world, from Asia to Europe, to America, to the Middle East, and more so in Africa. Thus, in addition to the principles stated earlier, Kenya has maintained the non-alignment policy. Closer home, let me emphasize that our relations with Africa, especially our ties with the EAC region, have remained a priority. Kenya is committed to strengthening regional integration. We have been a steadfast partner in the East African regional integration since the establishment of the East African Community. And I am pleased to let you know that during the 24th Ordinary Summit of the East African Community Heads of State just last week, our President, His Excellency William Ruto, was elected the community's chair. Furthermore, Kenya has continued to play its role as a member of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, and the African Continental Free Trade Area. As a nation, we have also been conscious of our international obligations to foster unity and consensus around matters of mutual concern to the region and the world. For example, we hosted the high-level conference on sustainable blue economy. That provided a significant build-up to the 2022 United Nations Oceans Conference in Lisbon, Portugal. Also in 2023, Kenya, under the active leadership of His Excellency the President, hosted the Africa Climate Summit, a forum that culminated in the Nairobi Declaration on Climate Change and Call to Action, which is now integrated in the Continental Agenda on Climate Change Financing Mechanisms. Similarly, we recall our milestones in economic and commercial diplomacy when early this year, Kenya hosted both the annual meeting of the African Development Group, member states, and the International Development Association for the Africa Heads of State Summit, respectively, in May and April 2024. Notable outcomes of these meetings included a focus on debt challenges, highlighting the need to reform the international financial architecture that works against African states and centering the role of the private sector, youth, and civil society in economic diplomacy. And let me just highlight that in Nairobi, for the African there was a call so that the ADB have grow $10 billion US dollars to $25 billion US dollars. And indeed, I'm speaking to some of those who are also supporters of the ADB are present here. We really look forward to your commitments so that we can meet that target on behalf of the ADB for their replenishment. In the case of the target is about 120 billion shillings. Recently, when I was in Bangladesh, I had an opportunity to have a we we just privileged and he said we commit to 120 billion US dollars for the IDA fund, but there's a possibility we could get to about 105 to 110 billion US dollars for the 75 IDA countries. So, ladies and gentlemen, this again is a strong message that Kenya took a lead in driving so that the 75 countries can benefit from concessionary funding, which is critical to spur development. Our commitment to multilateralism is reflected in the fact that our country has played a leading role in crucial international bodies, including serving 3 times as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. This year, Kenya was also elected to the United Nations Human Rights Council for the year 2025 to 2027. At the continental level, Kenya continues to play an active and leading role in the realization of the African Union objectives of unity, solidarity, prosperity, peace, and stability, as well as the achievement of the African Union Agenda 2063. Presently, Kenya's president is the champion for the institutional reforms of the African Union. We shall continue championing African affairs in the global arena and remain a dedicated partner of the African Union in peace and security initiatives, sustainable development, and humanitarian support. As a country, we continue to guard our legacy credentials as a dependable peace and security actor in the region and the world. In fact, Kenya invariably invests its own resources to guarantee peace in the region. I'm sure when Madam Monica speaks to this, I'll be sitting there to listen to the panel. She may say a little more. We hold the collective security view that when peace is disturbed anywhere, there is no peace everywhere. It is in this spirit that our country accepted to lead the UN-approved multinational security support mission in Haiti. Also, our regional peacemaking efforts are on course, including in South Sudan and other parts of our continent. In celebrating our 60 years of diplomacy, we cannot miss to showcase our great milestones in peacekeeping. Since 1979, when Kenya had the first comprehensive participation in peace support operations in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, our country has today participated in over, now the UN may be right, they said 52, regional and international peacekeeping and peace support missions as a troop contributing country. Our African identity is at the heart of our foreign policy, principle of humanitarianism. We have hosted over 700,000 refugees, as well as contributed towards humanitarian support and disaster response after various environmental crises, disease outbreaks, and conflicts. Today, the Shirika Plan, which is a pioneering refugee management program that transforms refugee camps into integrated settlements, is an internationally acclaimed refugee program. Given the enviable past, we continue to chart a bright future by adopting innovative approaches to establish a robust foreign policy that is pragmatic, principled, and strategically adaptable to the global dynamics of our time. Accordingly, this week we launched the revised foreign policy, the Principal Secretary spoke to it, 2024, as well as vital documents including strategic plans, the protocol manual, and the ICT policy. By the way, I did not know that protocol can generate a lot of tension if mismanaged. The overall documents reflect the evolving priorities of our nation as we prepare with optimism for the opportunities and challenges of our time and beyond. The new foreign policy document, which is an outcome of the extensive stakeholder consultations, endeavors to place citizens at the center of Kenya's foreign policy agenda. As such, we shall be embarking on the Foreign Policy Mashinani program, which is a nationwide public awareness campaign that will also encompass translation of the policy into our national language, Kiswahili. So Professor Mula was on course. Similarly, the Foreign Service Academy remains our best synergy platform between researchers, think tanks, the academia, like those from this university, as part of the 60 years diplomatic journey celebrations. We shall be inaugurating the academy as a state agency this Friday. Going forward, we are looking at centering our country in global governance, cutting a diplomatic niche in the discourse of climate change action, and advocating for reforms of the international multilateral organizations, as well as the international financial architecture. We endeavor to continue positioning our country in global trade and investment as we seek to diversify our diplomatic relations. Domestically, we endeavor to broaden citizen engagement in our country's foreign affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, let me repeat what I've been repeating several times, because this was a very potent punch from the Gen Zs in June. They kept on asking, why does the president travel abroad? Why do I say it was potent? Because it dawned on us that for too long, we have been detached when it comes to foreign policy with the citizenry. We want to change that. And this is part of the process of the journey of changing that. As I conclude, let us look to the words of Kofi Annan, who reminded us, more than ever before in human history, we share a common destiny. We can master it only if we face it together. The next 60 years of Kenya's diplomacy will not be built on individual achievements, but on our collective resolve to shape a better future. Let this commemoration be a call to action and a commitment to not only learn from the past, but to craft a diplomacy that is visionary, inclusive, and impactful. As we stand on the shoulders of those who shaped Kenya's diplomacy, let us turn our gaze to the vibrant, untapped potential of our youth, who are the dreamers, the innovators, the Gen Z, the custodians of our tomorrow. Their energy, creativity, and daring spirit must infuse our foreign policy with renewed vigor. Let us ask ourselves, are we equipping them to navigate the complex web of global diplomacy? Are we inspiring them to carry forward Kenya's legacy on the world stage? Are we informing them of what is expected of them in the future? The future of our diplomacy will not be written in boardrooms alone, but in classrooms, innovation hubs, and the hearts of young Kenyans who dare to imagine a better world. I thank all our partners for the critical support, and I encourage you to join us in celebrating our triumphs and challenges together. Equally, let me congratulate the team of the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs for such meticulous organization. I wish you all very fruitful engagements and a truly objective assessment of our achievements, challenges, and the lessons that we need to carry forward. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless Kenya. I will sit and listen.